and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm starting a brand new series on my channel all about different goldfish breeds, and today it's all about the Orandas. So Orandas are known for their wen, and if you don't know what that is basically their big fleshy growth on their head. Some people don't like the wen on their head and wonder if it hurts them, and it does not. A wen is just a fleshy growth on their head that they are widely known for. If you ever see an Oranda in your pet store, you are going to know that it's an Oranda because of that lovely head growth. So the wen itself takes a while to grow. It does not occur as soon as they are born. It grows throughout their life. Generally, it takes about 2 years before the wen is fully grown, and that requires a lot of TLC from the owner themselves. During the first 2 years of the Oranda's life, the wen will start to grow. Generally, you can't see the wen itself for about 4 to 6 months after they have been born. It does not grow very quickly. It is generally over time that it will become very noticeable. In order for it to grow to its full potential, you need to make sure that your tank size is adequate for Orandas, and Orandas need at least 20 gallons of water per one fish. So if you have an Oranda and another goldfish, you need a 40-gallon tank. Also, to promote the wen growth, you should be changing at least 70 to 100% of their water every single week, and that is across the board. Any goldfish that you own should be getting weekly water changes. Goldfish are messy creatures and they create a lot of waste, and not only do you need a really good filter, but you need to make sure that you are keeping up with those water changes. Now, with the wen itself, things can get trapped in it. Particles, food, bacteria, fungal things, anything like that can potentially get trapped in the wen and can cause issues down the road, such as bacterial infections, fungal infections can occur, and that becomes a big issue that would require antibiotics as well. So it's very important that you are watchful of these fish and make sure that there is no real issue with the wen. And also, some people get confused when they see little white spots on the wen. That may not actually be a particle or something stuck in the wen. It could just simply be wen growth. Every now and again, especially when the wen is developing, you will find white spots on the wen itself, and that's simply just tissue growth. If something were to get lodged in the wen, and you notice that something is stuck within it, it needs to be removed. Generally, in order to get things out of the wen, you can use cotton swabs. That generally will take care of the problem. So that is a quick overview of the wen itself, and so now we're going to talk about the Oranda itself. Orandas tend to be more round and egg-shaped than other fancy goldfish, and they can get very, very big. In most cases, if they are well taken care of, have excellent filtration, have weekly water changes the way they're supposed to, and are fed excellent food, they can get 8 to 12 inches long, and they get big fast in that case. I have one in particular that I talk about all the time. His name is Knight, and he is a butthead, but he is one of my biggest Orandas, and he is continuing to grow, and he is already about 6 inches, and he is less than a year old. So he's getting very, very big, and his wen is growing at an exceptional pace. In my opinion, he is what a true Oranda should look like. Something that should also be taken into account is that Orandas tend to be less forgiving than other goldfish, and that goes for any fancy goldfish, but Orandas in particular, I have found that they do not do as well in colder temperatures, and generally goldfish are pretty forgiving with their temperature and the range in which they can thrive off of. My aquariums tend to stay between 72 and 74 degrees year round. They're all in my house and we have central heating and air, and that is pretty much what my house stays at year round, so they don't really have any temperature fluctuations or anything like that. And he does, you know, all of my Orandas do well in that temperature range. I recommend that you stay between 70 and 80 degrees. If you start falling below 65, you will see your Oranda, you know, there's potential for Orandas to have issues in that temperature range. Some goldfish can tolerate very cold temperatures, especially if they're in ponds outside year round, but Orandas just tend to have more issues with that. They can't tolerate, you know, cool temperatures as well as other goldfish can. I have found that with all of the breeds that I have kept over the years, they tend to scavenge the most, and by that I mean they love substrate. All of my aquariums have rock substrate, and that's literally what they do continuously. You know, out of all of the breeds that I have, I would say that they scavenge probably 90% of the day. I've never had trouble with any of them getting rocks stuck in their mouth or anything like that. They are my biggest goldfish, and I have Orandas, Ryukins, Blackmores, butterfly telescopes, and Ranchu and fantails, and they are by far my biggest fish, and they just grow very well generally, and they get big, and I'm curious to see how big they're going to get, because I really thought that by now they would be slowing down, but they don't seem to be. They are also one of my spunkiest fish, and by that I mean they have huge personalities. Knight, who looks like this, he definitely has the biggest personality of all of my fish. He loves to eat, and I mean, if he's not fed on time, he will let you know. And all of my fish get fed twice a day. They generally get fed between 5 and 6 a.m. in the morning and 5 to 6 p.m. in the evening. And that is their schedule, and he knows it. If I am 30 minutes late, say I've been gone to like classes or something and they go over and I'm late getting here, if it's 6 or 6:30 or something, he knows it, and I can hear him from my front door. He will be knocking his head against the top of my aquarium, and he will do that until I feed him. That is just his personality. He does not like to skip meals, and he won't have it, because he will continue doing that until you feed him. He also does not get along with all of my fish, and if you've seen any of my videos, I talk about him all the time because he's just a big butthead, and that's what he is. And you know, some of my fish he cannot get along with at all. He doesn't want anything to do with them. He will fight them, but he gets along with 2 of my fish, and that would be Comet and Lucy. Comet is an Oranda like he is, and Lucy's a Ryukin, and he's been with them since they were like less than an inch long. They were tiny little babies, and that's all he gets along with. I mean, it's crazy, but that's him. I also have Z. He is my blue Oranda, and he looks like this. Z came to me last July. He was a rescue, and he was in a very rough shape. He was very, very small and had been beat up by other fish, and he was just rough. And never did I ever think that he was going to grow into such a beautiful boy, but he did, and he's big, and he is less than an inch smaller than Knight. He's gonna be bigger than Knight, I think, but we'll see. Knight is a lot older than him, so we'll see how big he gets, but I really think that he's gonna outdo him. He has a much more laid-back personality. He's not as mean as Knight. He gets along with almost all of my fish, and I've never had any trouble with him being aggressive or anything like that. He has always been one of my perfect fish, as I say. I don't have to put him in timeout. I don't have to, you know, move him between aquariums because he's fighting or anything. He's wonderful. And that's the way he's always been. He's never been pushy, or even during breeding season, he's not like that. And that's awesome. He is an excellent Oranda. However, his wing has not completely developed. He's still very young. He's less than a year old, and he is just now starting to grow his wing. Comet is my other Oranda, and he is with Night. Comet is one of my special needs goldfish. He has a missing tail, or rather part of a tail. However, he is growing to be a really big guy. He is also less than a year old. He will not be as big as Z or Night, but he is growing out to be a nice Oranda, and he does have a head growth, which you can see, but he's pretty laid back, like Z. He doesn't, you know, get in trouble. He doesn't fight other fish, nothing like that. But he likes to eat, and he's the same way as Night. If I don't feed him on time, he will let me know, and that's the way he's always been. My last one is a female, and she is my only female Oranda. Her name is Malachi, and she looks like this. She is a sweetheart, and I love her dearly. She has actually been in quarantine for a while. She's been sick. I've done several videos on that, so if you want to check that out, you can. She was also, I rescued her and Z at the same time. She was much more beat up than he was. She had been beat up by other goldfish, and she'd been pushed into filters, and she had lost most of her tail when I got her. She was just a mess, a big mess, and she has really grown into a beautiful fish, and she loves to eat as well. She overall has a pretty calm personality. She doesn't get you know, super aggressive or anything. I've never caught her doing that, but she really is a sweetheart. That's her personality, and she never fights anybody. Like, she doesn't, even breeding season, you know, she's very cool and collective. They can, you know, the other male fish can, you know, butt her and push her around a little bit, but she can also put them in their place. If she gets, you know, if they bother her too much, she will put them in their place, and that's the way she's been forever. So she's doing great though, and she is my last Oranda that I have. That is all about Orandas, and I hope you learned something. And you know, Orandas are very dear to my heart. You know, as much as Night gets on my nerves sometimes, you know, I wouldn't get rid of him. Like, you know, he is a butthead sometimes, but, you know, he's my trouble child. I still love him as one of my children, and that's the way it's gonna be. He has done so much better with just the two fish that he's with than he did with other fish, so he probably will stay in his home forever. But that's okay. You know, sometimes you want to mix your goldfish together, and you want, you know, especially if you have more tanks. Like, I have 7 aquariums. Sometimes I want to see them with other fish, but he's just not one of those that I can do that with, and that's okay. So, yeah, I hope you learned something, and stay tuned for the rest of the series, and I'll see y'all next time.